I never imagined I'd be sharing something like this. Just days before what was supposed to be the happiest moment of my life, my wedding, I caught the woman I loved kissing another man outside a hotel. The next 48 hours shattered everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and the future I had planned. This is the story of how my world collapsed and how I slowly began to rebuild it.
Welcome to Infidelity Truths. Before we dive into today's gripping story, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us create more thrilling stories just for you. Let's begin.
I never thought I'd be the kind of person sharing a story like this. But here I am trying to make sense of how my world unraveled just days before what should have been the happiest moment of my life. My name is Lucas Grant. I'm a 31-year-old software developer based in Denver. Until recently, I believed I had everything figured out, career on track, a partner I adored, and a future I was genuinely excited for. That was until everything collapsed in a way I never could have imagined. I met Mia 4 years ago at a small local coffee shop not far from my office. She was sitting near the window, working on her laptop, when I clumsily spilled my coffee right next to her table. Instead of reacting with annoyance, she smiled, helped me clean up, and we struck up a conversation that lasted hours. We clicked instantly, talking about everything from music to movies to our mutual love for hiking. What started as a random moment turned into something special. We kept bumping into each other at that same coffee shop until I finally got the courage to ask her out. From there, life moved fast. Within a year, we moved in together and adopted a cat we named Jasper. Our days were filled with hikes, board game nights, and cozy dinners. Everything felt right. 3 years into our relationship, I proposed to her during a sunset hike at our favorite trail. She said yes through happy tears, and we began planning our wedding with the kind of giddy excitement you see in movies. We chose a stunning mountain lodge as our venue, hand-picked a menu from our favorite local spots, and invited about 120 guests. Her parents graciously offered to cover most of the wedding costs, while my family helped with logistics and threw us a heartwarming engagement party. Everyone got along so well it felt like the stars were aligning. The wedding was set for last weekend. Flights were booked, hotels reserved. The rehearsal dinner was scheduled for Friday evening. Everything was ready. Then, just 2 days before the ceremony, everything fell apart. It was a Thursday afternoon. I was home, confirming honeymoon reservations, when my friend Elijah called. He works downtown and had seen Mia entering a hotel with another man. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a cousin or an old friend. But when Elijah described how they held hands and kissed like a couple, my heart dropped. I drove to the hotel, parked, waited. An hour later, I saw them leave, laughing, holding hands, kissing. My fiancée, the woman I was about to marry in 48 hours. It didn't look like a fling, it looked like love. That night, she came home like nothing had happened, talking about flower arrangements and last-minute table settings. I let her finish before asking, simply, "Who is he?" She froze, denied it at first. But when I told her I knew when I said I'd seen them, she broke down. She admitted they reconnected a few months back. He was an old college friend she'd bumped into at a work event. One thing led to another. It had been going on for months. She cried, swore it was just physical, begged me not to cancel the wedding, said she still loved me and wanted a life with me. But how do you look at someone the same after something like that? I told her to leave. The wedding was off. That night, I sat in our apartment surrounded by wedding gifts and floral arrangements, wondering how I'd missed the signs. I called my parents, then hers, then the wedding planner. And then, impulsively, I sent a message to all our guests. I told them the wedding was canceled due to Mia's infidelity. Was it the most mature thing to do? Probably not. But in that moment, I needed the truth to be known. The days that followed were chaos. Her parents called, constantly swinging between apologies and veiled accusations. Some of her friends attacked me for airing things publicly. Others' mutual friends reached out with support and quiet outrage at what Mia had done. Then came the money talks. Her parents wanted refunds. Some costs couldn't be recouped. Tensions rose. There were threats of legal action. But eventually, We settled each of us covering our respective expenses, with shared costs split. I couldn't stay in the apartment. It hurt too much. So I moved back in with my parents. Jasper came with me only constant in the whirlwind. For weeks, I ignored her messages. Then, I agreed to meet. She looked like a shell of herself, eyes, puffy, voice shaking. She begged for another chance. Promised it was over with the other guy. Promised she still loved me. And for a brief moment, I wanted to believe her. But then I remembered the hotel. The lies. The weeks she spent planning a wedding with me while sneaking around behind my back. I told her I couldn't do it, not because I hated her, but because the trust was dead. And without trust, love can't survive. We met one final time to sort out the remaining logistics. It was cold, awkward, necessary. Elijah checked in on me often. Other friends did too. Basketball games, weekend beers, late-night chats. They helped me crawl out of the darkness. Eventually, I returned to work. My boss was understanding and even offered me a chance to lead a new project. The routine saved me, gave me something to pour my energy into. Now, a month later, things are better. Not great, not perfect, but better. I'm still living with my folks, but I've started apartment hunting. I've signed up for some advanced software development courses I always put off. And I'm seriously considering taking that solo trip to Japan I always talked about but never prioritized. Some days are hard. I still get reminders of her songs, places, shared memories, but those days are getting fewer. People keep asking when I'll start dating again, but I'm not there yet. Right now, I'm focusing on me, rebuilding, healing, learning how to be okay on my own. If there's one thing I've taken from all of this, it's that life doesn't always follow the script you write in your head. Things fall apart, people betray you, plans dissolve. But maybe that's life's way of nudging you towards something new, something better. So if you're going through heartbreak, just know this. It will hurt like hell, but you'll get through it. One step, one breath, one moment at a time. You will be okay. It's been 3 months since the wedding that never happened. And though the dust has mostly settled, healing hasn't been linear. Some days, I feel like I've taken 3 steps forward. Other days, just one reminder, one memory, can send me stumbling back. After moving out of my parents' house, I found a small apartment on the edge of town. It's not fancy, but it's mine. Setting it up felt oddly therapeutic-like, rebuilding from the ashes. I bought new furniture, painted the walls a soft navy, and made space for Jasper, who's adapted surprisingly well. Some nights, he curls up beside me as if he knows I need the company more than ever. Work has been my anchor. The project I was given turned out to be a massive success. I poured everything into me focus, my frustration, my need for purpose, and when we presented to the client, they signed off with overwhelming praise. That win didn't just boost my career, it reminded me that I'm still capable of creating something meaningful, even when everything else feels uncertain. Therapy continues to be a lifeline. I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to spill his heart to a stranger once a week, but here I am. My therapist, Natalie, doesn't just listen, she challenges me. She's helped me work through the anger, the shame, the grief. She keeps reminding me that betrayal says more about the betrayer than the betrayed, that I didn't deserve what happened. That forgiveness doesn't have to mean reconciliation, it can mean release. Socially, things have been complicated. Some friendships didn't survive the fallout. A few of her closest friends still blame me for how everything came out, despite knowing the truth. But the people who mattered my circle, they stayed. Elijah's still my go-to guy. He's taken it upon himself to drag me into weekend plans, even when I resist. You need to see daylight, he jokes, and he's not wrong. We met at a tech networking event downtown. She was a front-end developer from Boulder Smart, sharp-witted and refreshingly real. We didn't flirt, we didn't exchange numbers, but we talked. And for the first time in months, I found myself genuinely laughing, not the forced kind, but the kind that bubbles up when you're surprised by it. I bumped into her again a few weeks later at a mutual friend's birthday party. We chatted more this time about code, coffee, and the mutual joy of having a cat that rules your apartment like a tiny dictator. She didn't pry about my past. She didn't push for more. She just existed in this calm, easy space. And I found comfort in that. We've hung out a few times since Seno labels, no pressure. Just two people figuring life out. And while I'm not ready to dive into anything serious, I'm not afraid of the idea anymore either. I've also been planning that trip to Japan. I finally booked Itwo weeks in the spring. Kyoto, Tokyo, Osaka. Just me, a camera, and a craving for something new. It'll be the first time I've ever traveled alone, and weirdly, I'm looking forward to it. I think there's something healing about getting lost in a city where no one knows your name. Emotionally, I'm still working on letting go not just of Mia, but of the version of my life I thought I was heading toward. That's been the hardest part, not just grieving a relationship, but mourning a future that felt so real. I still remember the way she looked the night I proposed, the way she laughed when we danced around the kitchen, the plans we made for kids, for weekend breakfasts, for growing old, all gone in a moment. But here's the thing no one tells you. After heartbreak, there's still life. It's quieter, slower, more cautious, but it's there. And day by day, I'm learning how to live it. I don't hate Mia anymore. I'm still hurt, yes. But hate is heavy, and I'm tired of carrying things that don't serve me. I wish her healing. I wish her clarity. I wish her peace. But I also wish for her to understand what she threw away not out of spite, but because I now understand my worth. If you've ever been where I am staring at the wreckage of something you thought would last just, know that it won't always hurt this much. Your heart doesn't stay broken forever. The pieces start to come back together, little by little. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to rebuild slowly. It's okay to be alone. And one day, you'll look around and realize you're not just surviving, you're living. Japan was everything I didn't know I needed. From the moment my plane landed at Haneda Airport, I felt like I had stepped into another world, one so far removed from the chaos I left behind that it almost felt like time itself paused just for me. I started in Tokyo. The lights, the sounds, the perfectly organized chaos. It was overwhelming at first, but also electric. I spent hours wandering through Shibuya and Shinjuku, trying street food I couldn't pronounce, getting lost on purpose, and people watching with a strange sense of peace. For once, no one knew my story. No one asked me how I was doing or offered pitying glances. I was just Lucas, a traveler with a camera and a quiet mission to feel again. From Tokyo, I headed to Kyoto. The contrast was stunning temples, quiet streets, peaceful gardens. I remember standing beneath the red arches of Fushimi Inari, surrounded by absolute silence except for the wind through the trees. It was there that it hit me. The pain I carried was no longer gripping my chest like it used to. It was still there, but it had softened like a scar that no longer hurt to touch. I found a little cafe near my ryokan and ended up visiting it every morning. The owner, an elderly man named Daiichi, barely spoke English, and I only knew basic Japanese. But every day, he greeted me with the same warm smile and a perfectly brewed cup of matcha. Somehow, that became a kind of ritual. A reminder that healing doesn't always come from big revelations sometimes. It's found in quiet routines and warm tea. And then there was Hana. She wasn't part of the planin of this was, but life has a funny way of nudging you forward when you're finally still enough to listen. We met on a walking tour in Arashiyama. She was from Singapore, traveling solo, and we struck up a conversation while admiring the bamboo forest. At first, it was just casual tourist talk where we'd been, what we'd seen, what food we liked. But then we started walking together, and our conversations deepened. Over the next few days, we kept running into each other. We laughed about it the third time and decided to just spend the day exploring together. We hiked through the Philosopher's Path, took photos at the Golden Pavilion, and talked about everything from childhood memories to future dreams. She didn't know anything about my past not until I told her on our last night in Kyoto. We were sitting beside the Kamo River, lanterns glowing on the water, and I found myself telling her the entire story about Mia, the wedding, the betrayal, everything. She listened without interrupting. No judgment, no dramatic reaction, just quiet understanding. Then she said, "Maybe what you went through was never meant to break you. Maybe it was meant to wake you up." Those words stuck with me. Hannah wasn't a rebound. She wasn't a distraction. She was simply a mirror, someone who reminded me of who I was underneath the heartbreak. We didn't promise anything beyond that trip. She had her life back home. I had mine. But we left each other with gratitude, and that was enough. When I flew back to Denver, I felt lighter. Not fixed, just lighter. I returned to my apartment with a clearer mind, unpacked my suitcase, and realized how different everything looked, not because the place had changed, but because I had. I've started journaling more. I finished an advanced programming course and even gave a talk at a local tech meetup. I'm volunteering once a week, teaching coding to high school students who remind me why I fell in love with tech in the first place. As for love, I'm not searching, not waiting, not rushing. If it happens, it happens. But for the first time in a long time, I'm happy with just me. There are still moments when something triggers a memoria song, a scent, a phrase. But now, instead of hurting, it just reminds me how far I've come. This isn't the life I planned. But maybe that's the point. I didn't choose this path. It chose me. And walking it has made me stronger, more aware, more whole. To anyone who's picking up the pieces like I once was, just know this. The life you rebuild will not look like the one you lost. It will be quieter, truer, more yours. And in that space of unexpected freedom, you'll find yourself again. Spring arrived in Denver with a gentleness I hadn't felt in years. The cherry blossoms near City Park bloomed late this year, but when they did, it was like nature whispered, "You made it." It had been nearly 6 months since everything fell apart, and then, somehow, slowly, everything began to come together. After my return from Japan, I started working on a side project that had been sitting in my ideas folder for years. It was a wellness-focused journaling and habit app tailored for people recovering from emotional trauma. Nothing too fancy, just something I wished I had when I was in the thick of it. I called it Still Here. I didn't build it to make money. I built it because healing is lonely, and I figured if my experience could help even one person feel less alone, it was worth it. To my surprise, the app started gaining traction. A few mental health forums picked it up, and a popular therapist on TikTok shared a short review. Downloads trickled in, then suddenly spiked. I started getting emails raw, honest messages from people who had gone through breakups, losses, divorces, thanking me for building something simple, something real. And just like that, my pain had purpose. One evening, while hosting a local meetup for app users, I ran into someone I hadn't seen in over a decade, Avery James. We'd gone to the same college. I remembered her as the girl who always sat in the front row during lectures, notebook in hand, fiercely focused. She had a laugh that could silence a room in the best way. She recognized me first. "Lucas Grant?" she said with a half grin. "You still drink black coffee with 2 sugars?" We laughed like old friends, and soon we were talking like new ones. She just moved back to Denver after years in Seattle and was starting over too. No baggage, no rushing. Just 2 people trying to make sense of where life had led them. We didn't jump into anything. There were no fireworks, no sweeping gestures, just slow walks, long talks, and steady comfort. And in that simplicity, something real began to bloom. One Saturday afternoon, as we sat on my porch sipping coffee, Avery leaned her head on my shoulder and said, "You don't talk much about what happened, but I feel it in the way you've rebuilt your life." I didn't respond right away. I just smiled, looked at her, and realized she was right. My story wasn't about heartbreak anymore. It wasn't about betrayal or loss or anger. It was about everything that came after. The strength I didn't know I had, the support I never expected, the courage to walk away, the peace in solitude, the discovery of purpose. The choice to believe in love again, but only when it felt safe, slow, and real. So, this is where my story ends. Not in the way I once imagined, not at an altar, not with a perfect vow, not with a grand celebration, but in something better. In quiet resilience, meaningful work, and a love that took its time. I didn't get the wedding, but I got myself back. And that was everything. If you're still in the middle of your heartbreak, still drowning in what-ifs and late-night tears, please believe me when I say, you won't stay there forever. Keep going. Not towards someone else, but toward yourself. Because the best love stories don't always start with someone else walking into your life. Sometimes, they start when you finally come home to your own. The moral lesson of the story. Trust is the foundation of every relationship once broken. It's hard to rebuild. Sometimes walking away from someone you love is the strongest and healthiest choice you can make. Healing takes time, but choosing self-respect and growth over betrayal leads to a better future.